My name is Aria Sullivan, and the night my marriage died started on an empty stretch of road with the wind cutting through my jacket and my husband's taillights disappearing into the dark. I didn't even realize he had stopped the car until the seatbelt snapped back against me. One moment we were arguing, his voice sharp, mine cracking, and the next, the passenger door swung open like a command. Before I could ask what he was doing, Cole grabbed my wrist, pulled me out onto the gravel shoulder, and stripped my purse from my hands. My phone, my wallet, my keys, everything vanished into his jacket pocket. "Do whatever you want," he said, like he was giving me a choice. His eyes were flat, exhausted, annoyed, as if abandoning me miles from home was the reasonable next step in our conversation. Then he got back in the car and drove away. The red glow of his brake lights faded until nothing was left but darkness and the low hum of cold Oregon wind. I stood there stunned, the steel taste of panic slowly rising in my throat. My fingers curled helplessly, instinctively reaching for a phone that wasn't there. Cars didn't pass. Houses didn't appear. Just silence stretching so far it felt like the world had swallowed me whole. I tried calling out even though there was no one to hear me. My voice cracked in the empty air. I wrapped my arms around myself, not for warmth, but to keep from shaking apart. In that moment, something inside me split quietly, almost politely, like a thread snapping under too much weight. I didn't know it yet, but being abandoned on that roadside wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of absolutely everything. The cold seeped through my clothes until I felt it in my teeth. I kept telling myself to move to find a landmark, but my legs refused. I stood on the gravel shoulder long after Cole's car disappeared, half expecting him to turn back to realize what he'd done. He didn't. A truck roared past, spraying dust and jolting me back into myself. I forced my feet forward toward the faint glow of a bus shelter half a mile ahead. Just a metal frame with cracked plexiglass, but it looked like somewhere to sit, somewhere to think. When I reached it, the faded schedule told me there were no buses after 6 p.m. I checked my wrist instinctively, forgetting I wasn't wearing a watch. The deepening blue sky made it impossible to guess the time, only that it was later than I wanted. I sat on the cold bench, staring at the empty road. My mind replayed the car ride in broken pieces, Cole hitting the steering wheel over the receipt, spitting useless, pulling off the highway with his jaw clenched. He'd been angry before, had yelled, but he'd never abandoned me with nothing but the clothes on my back. Then the realization hit colder than the wind. He knew I had no cash. He monitored the only card in my name, and by taking my phone, he hadn't just left me helpless. He'd cut off my voice, kept me from calling anyone who might question him. Headlights approached. I stood waving, but the car sped past without slowing. Its engine faded into the dark. For a moment, I nearly cried. Instead, I breathed deeply, the way my mother used to tell me when the world felt too heavy. I didn't know what would happen next, only that staying here wouldn't save me. I stepped off the curb to start walking again. That's when I heard the soft tap of a cane behind me. The tapping grew louder, slow, steady, measured. I turned, expecting another truck, but instead an older woman stepped out of the dark. She wore a long wool coat, silver hair pulled back a polished cane, striking the pavement with purpose. She moved as if she knew exactly where she was going. She stopped a few feet from me. Her pale, clouded eyes were surprisingly sharp. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice warm but firm. My throat closed. I shook my head. She listened to the space between us, then said gently, "You've been crying. Your breathing gives it away." Something about her calmness loosened my defenses. "My husband left me here," I whispered. "He took everything. I don't even know where we are." She sighed like she'd heard this before. "Then you shouldn't be out here alone." From her coat, she pulled a small phone with large buttons. "Let me call someone. My driver is nearby." "I don't want to be a burden," I said automatically, her lips curved with soft sadness. Safety doesn't wait for pride. Moments later, a dark SUV approached, headlights sweeping across the empty road. The driver, a tall man in a perfectly fitted jacket, opened the back door with a curt nod. "Lucas," the woman said, touching his arm. "This is Aria. She's coming with us." That she remembered my name so easily made my chest tighten. "I don't even know where with us is," I murmured. "To my home," she said. "It's close. You'll be safe there." Safe. The word felt strange, almost suspicious. But I had no phone, no money, and no help coming. So I stepped toward the open door. Lucas helped me inside. The woman slid in beside me, resting her cane against her knee. "My name is Eleanor Cross," she said as the SUV pulled away. "And tonight you don't have to be alone." The drive to Eleanor's home felt unreal, like the night had loosened its grip on reality. The SUV moved through quiet streets, headlights skimming pine trees and sloping hills. I waited for fear to strike, for following strangers, for trusting too fast. But all I felt was a heavy exhaustion finally surfacing. Tall wrought iron gates appeared and opened automatically. The driveway lined with lanterns led to a large but welcoming house with warm, glowing windows. Inside, heat wrapped around me. The foyer smelled of cedar and something floral. Lucas took Eleanor's coat while she beckoned me forward. "Let's get you settled. You look chilled." She led me to a guest room upstairs, soft lighting a thick quilt bottled water teas neatly arranged. A room meant to make someone breathe easier, but my breath didn't. When Lucas left, the silence felt too gentle for someone who'd spent years shrinking into corners. "Sit with me," Eleanor said, taking a chair by the window. It wasn't a question. I sat across from her, hands shaking in my lap. "When someone discards you," she said softly, "it leaves an echo in the chest. I heard it in your voice." Tears pricked. "He said I don't understand money, that I'm irresponsible. We argued, and then he left me." Eleanor listened. "A man who takes everything before abandoning you doesn't want you powerless by accident." The truth of it startled me. "I don't want to impose," I whispered. "You aren't," she said. "You need rest in a place where no one is trying to break you. Stay a few days. No obligation. Just breathe." Something inside me steadied. For the first time that night, I nodded. "Okay." Elena smiled, small and knowing. "Good. Tomorrow we'll talk. Tonight you sleep." And for the first time in a long while, I believed I might. Morning sunlight stretched softly across the room when I woke. For a moment, I didn't recognize the ceiling or the quilt around me. Then last night rushed back the road the cold Eleanor's calm voice. I sat up slowly, feeling the strange weight of a night without fear. A light knock came before the door opened. Lucas stood with a tray. "Breakfast. Ms. Cross asked me to check on you." He set it down, oatmeal fruit tea. Gratitude and shame twisted in my chest. I wasn't used to kindness without conditions. "Thank you," I murmured. He nodded and slipped away. After eating and changing into the clothes, Eleanor had left a soft sweater and jeans that fit perfectly. I went downstairs. Eleanor sat in a sunroom filled with plants, sunlight tracing her silver hair. "Come in, Aria," she said. "You sound steadier today." "I'm trying." "That's enough." She folded her hands. "There's someone I want you to meet." A tall woman entered, sharp features, fitted blazer eyes that missed nothing. "This is Valerie," Eleanor said. "She's an attorney." The word hit hard. "I didn't ask for—" "I know," Eleanor said gently. "People who are mistreated often think they deserve nothing. I'm challenging that." Valerie stepped forward with a measured smile. "Eleanor told me your husband took your belongings and left you stranded." "That's not a fight, it's coercive control." The phrase chilled me. "Coercive control," I repeated. "It's a pattern," Valerie explained. "Monitoring money, isolating you, making you dependent, then escalating like last night." I swallowed. Hearing it named made everything sharper. "I thought he just lost his temper." Eleanor's voice softened but stayed firm. "Men who simply lose their temper don't plan your silence." Valerie opened a folder. "If you're willing, I can start gathering information, bank records, witnesses, anything proving a pattern." Cole's voice echoed in my mind. "You think you can survive without me?" Eleanor rested a steady hand on mine. "You're not alone in this anymore." Something shifted inside me, not a breaking, but a beginning. I nodded. "Yes, I want the truth." Valerie's confident smile told me she intended to find it. The next few days passed in a blur of quiet rooms, careful conversations, and truths heavier than I expected. Valerie worked fast, so fast I couldn't pretend any of this was exaggerated. Every new detail she uncovered came in her steady, clinical tone. Bank withdrawals, Cole never mentioned charges at a boutique hotel, messages with a woman I didn't know. Each piece fit a pattern I'd been too afraid or too conditioned to see. Eleanor never pushed me to react. She simply offered space. Warm meals, soft blankets, and a steadiness that made the parts of me trembling for years finally settle. One morning she met me in the hallway with an elegant envelope. "There's a fundraiser in Seattle next week," she said. "I'll be attending with some old colleagues." She paused. "Your husband and his employer are on the guest list. My stomach tightened. I can't be in the same room as him. You can, she said gently, if you choose the terms. I don't want a scene. Nor do I, she replied. This isn't spectacle, it's clarity. I didn't understand until Valerie joined us later, laying organized documents across the coffee table, legally obtained, undeniable. We're not confronting him, Valerie said. We're confronting the story he built, Eleanor added. He left you in the dark. We're simply turning on the light. When the night of the fundraiser came, Eleanor insisted on helping me prepare. A stylist brought a sleek black dress with clean lines and a soft shimmer, something that made me stand taller without trying. My hair was swept back simply, and for the first time in years, I faced the mirror without flinching. You look like someone who knows her worth, Eleanor said warmly. Lucas drove us to the venue, a glass building overlooking the bay, gleaming with city lights. Inside, guests mingled with champagne and easy confidence. I stayed close to Eleanor until my heartbeat settled into something sharp but steady. Then I saw him. Cole stood near the bar, laughing too loudly, drink in hand like a prop. When he saw me, his smile faltered. Confusion, then panic flickering across his face. He stepped forward. Aria, what are you doing here? Before I could speak, Eleanor moved between us. Not aggressive, just commanding enough that Cole actually stepped back. Lower your voice, she said. This is not the place to perform. Valerie appeared beside me and handed him a single sheet of paper, the first of many. His face drained as he read, and for the first time since the night he left me on that roadside, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. Cole kept reading, but his eyes moved like he no longer recognized the words. When he looked up with a shaky, dismissive laugh, Valerie didn't react. This is ridiculous, he said. My bank statements. Seriously. His gaze snapped to me. You're really doing this, after everything I've given you? The accusation didn't touch me. Weeks ago it might have. Now it felt small. You didn't give me anything, I said. You took things quietly, constantly, until there was almost nothing left. He opened his mouth, then faltered, unsure which script still worked on me. Eleanor stepped beside me, calm and steady. Aria isn't alone anymore, and she doesn't owe you an explanation. Cole's jaw clenched. He crushed the paper in his hand. You're blowing this out of proportion. Couples fight. And abandoning your spouse on the side of the road without money or ID? Valerie said smoothly. Is a criminal offense in Oregon. Color drained from his face. People nearby began to notice not a scene but an audience Cole hadn't invited. He stiffened under their attention. Why are you doing this? He hissed. A tremble rose in my chest, but my voice stayed steady. You left me in the dark, Cole. And the worst part is you expected me to stay there. His expression cracked, revealing something raw and ugly. You're pathetic, he spat. You wouldn't survive a day without me. I felt something warm settle in my ribs, my own strength. I already did, I said. His breath stuttered. The words hit their target. Valerie folded her arms. We'll proceed with the divorce. You'll receive notice. Cole stared at me like I was someone he couldn't control anymore. Eleanor touched my elbow. We're done here. I let her guide me away. The room resumed its quiet murmur as if the moment had been a glitch in the night. Outside, the cool air felt like freedom. City lights shimmered across the water, and for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something to survive. It felt like something I finally had the right to build, and I wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. I moved out of Eleanor's guest room a month later, not because I wanted to leave, but because I finally felt steady enough to stand on my own. She helped me find a small apartment overlooking a quiet street, the kind where the neighbors waved from their porches, and morning sunlight fell softly through the kitchen window. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Every corner of it felt like a promise. The divorce went through quietly. No drama, no more confrontations, just signatures, settlements, and a final acknowledgement that the life I'd clung to for so long had never really been a life at all. Cole didn't fight for anything except his pride, and even that slipped through his fingers. Eleanor offered me a position at her charitable foundation, working directly with women who had survived the same silence I once lived inside. I said yes with a kind of certainty I'd never felt before. One evening, months later, I drove past the old bus shelter where everything had fallen apart. I expected the memory to sting, but it didn't. It felt distant, like a different woman's story one I had finally stepped out of. Revenge never came from hurting him. It came from finally choosing myself.